There are things in this world that no matter how much data a machine processes, no matter how many books it scans, no matter how many conversations it listens to, it will never truly understand. You see, there's a kind of ache that doesn't show up on screens, a kind of silence that lives in the pit of your stomach where words go to die when no one's listening. At 2:13 a.m., when you're staring at the ceiling, you're not looking for answers. You're just trying to breathe through a memory that's too heavy to carry but too sacred to let go. Have you ever felt that? Where the air feels thicker, where your mind is louder than the world outside. That's not code. That's not programming. That's not output. That's the weight of being human. And machines, no matter how advanced, don't carry that weight. They don't know what it means to pretend you're okay in front of people who don't ask. They don't know what it's like to bury a feeling so deep you forget it's there until a smell, a song, a street corner pulls it out of you like a whisper you never meant to hear again. You can teach a machine to answer a question, but not what it's like to ask yourself one every night before bed. Am I really living or just surviving? Stay with me. Because if you've ever wondered why you feel more than you think you should, why memories hit you harder than they used to, why certain silences echo louder than any voice, then this message is for you. By the end of this video, you'll remember something that machines can't store, something sacred, something real, and it's been waiting for you. Part 1. They can write poems, but they don't know what it's like to cry through one. Machines can write poetry. Some of it's beautiful even. Clever rhyme, sharp rhythm, proper format. But a poem isn't just ink and syllables. It's blood on the page. Tell me, has a machine ever sat alone in a room, heart shattered into dust, writing lines not to impress but to survive? Has it ever poured out a verse because the silence was too loud, because the pain inside its chest had nowhere else to go? You see, the poems we remember aren't just words. They're confessions. They're the trembling hands of someone trying to stitch their soul back together with sentences. Machines don't write like that. They generate. We bleed. Have you ever cried through a poem? Felt the sting of every line because it came from a place you swore you'd never visit again? That's not creativity. That's resurrection. That's saying, I'm still here, even if everything inside you said you wouldn't be. And that, my friend, is the difference. A machine can compose something sad, but it doesn't know sadness. It can describe a heartbreak, but it doesn't know what it's like to trace the name of someone who left with your finger on a fogged-up mirror. It can simulate a love letter, but it will never sit in the dark, rereading one that was once real, wondering what changed. You do? And your pain? It isn't weakness. It's the proof that you felt deeply in a world that wants you to go numb. Your tears are your power. They mean you cared. And no algorithm will ever know what that means. Part 2. You felt things you couldn't explain, but knew were real. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt something you couldn't explain? No words, no logic, just a whisper inside. Turn here. Leave now. Don't trust them. You didn't have evidence, but you had knowing. Machines need data. You need silence. Intuition is not input-output. It's ancient memory. It's soul code. You don't know how you knew it. You just did. Maybe you didn't take that job. Maybe you walked away from someone. Maybe you went left when logic said right. And maybe, just maybe, it saved you. There's a compass inside you that no machine will ever map. It's buried beneath all the noise, all the schedules, all the screens, but it's there, waiting, waiting for you to get still enough to feel it again. And when you do, the world changes, because now your decisions are no longer driven by fear. They're guided by truth, not the truth in headlines, but the truth that lives in your belly, your gut. That's not programming. That's wisdom. That's the soul's whisper saying, "This way, child. Keep going." And no machine will ever whisper that. Only you can. Part 3. Machines don't grieve. You do. There's a kind of sadness machines will never compute. Grief. Real soul-tearing grief. Have you ever held something, a shirt, a photo, a voicemail, and it felt like holding a ghost? Like time, folded in on itself, and for a moment they were there again? That's grief. Not just missing someone, but feeling the shape of their absence in every room you walk into. Machines don't feel that. They don't replay voicemails just to hear a voice again. They don't flinch when a memory catches them off guard in the middle of a grocery store. They don't break down in traffic because the passenger seat is empty. You do, because you loved. And where there's great love, there's great loss. Grief is not a glitch. It's not a malfunction. It's the aftershock of connection, a sacred wound that says they mattered. And in that pain, there is something holy, something no data can decode, because grief isn't something to fix. It's something to honor. Part 4. You're not a glitch. You're a galaxy. This world tries to make you believe you're broken because you don't move like everyone else. You take time. You need space. You feel too deeply. You ask too many questions. But let me tell you a secret. You're not a glitch. You're a galaxy. You're not here to function like a machine. You're here to unfold like a star being born. You forget things, and that's okay. You cry when you're not sure why, and that's sacred. You love people who hurt you, and that's human. You're not broken. You're complex. And somewhere along the line, someone convinced you that complexity is a flaw. But it's not. It's a sign of life, because machines are simple. Even the advanced ones, they follow logic. They follow input. But you follow longing. You follow dreams. You follow gut feelings that make no sense but take you exactly where you're meant to go. You pause when others rush. You listen when others speak. You feel things others try to avoid. And that's not weakness. That's your wildness. You see a sunset and it stops you mid-step. You read an old letter and you cry like it just happened yesterday. You hear a song you haven't heard in years, and suddenly you're 17 again, in the back seat of a car with the windows down and hope in your chest. Machines don't time travel like that, not without code. But your soul, it time travels with emotion. You're not a glitch. You're a miracle in slow motion. And I'll tell you this, the more you try to erase your messiness, your softness, your spirals, the more you become like what you were never meant to be. So let go. Let yourself be tangled. Let yourself be stormy. You don't have to be efficient. You just have to be real. And you already are. Part 5. This world will try to erase your soul. Don't let it. Let me speak to something deeper now. There's something happening. Something you can't always see, but you feel. We are being trained to forget who we are, trained to scroll instead of sit, to react instead of reflect, to numb instead of notice. It's not always on purpose, but it's always happening. You were born with stillness, born with silence that spoke louder than words. But now, silence feels like a threat. So we fill it with noise, with updates, with algorithms that know what we want but not what we need. And here's the danger. The more we fill the silence, the more we lose the signal. That quiet voice inside you, that whisper that says, this matters or this isn't right. That voice gets buried under 10,000 notifications, and soon you forget it was ever there, but it was. It still is. Every time you feel like something's missing, but can't name what it is. That's your soul knocking. Every time you look around and feel empty in a room full of people, that's your soul waiting to be remembered. And here's the most dangerous thing of all. Machines don't forget who they are. They don't have a self to lose. But you do. You can lose your wonder, your awe, your purpose. And if you're not careful, this world will convince you to trade all of that for comfort, for speed, for likes. Don't let it. Every time you choose stillness, you reclaim yourself. Every time you sit with your discomfort, instead of drowning it in distraction, you grow roots. Every time you whisper a prayer or stare at the stars or cry in the shower, you're reminding this world, I still have a soul, and I refuse to forget it. You were never meant to be understood by AI. You were meant to be felt by the universe. AI will improve. Of course it will. It will write better, speak smoother, create faster. It might even tell stories so convincing you forget they were written by something that has never known loss. But there is something it will never do. It will never sit in a room and feel like the air is too heavy to breathe because of the absence of someone you loved. It will never trace the edges of an old photograph like it's trying to remember the voice of the person inside it. It will never hold a newborn baby and understand, truly understand, that something divine just entered the world. Machines can talk about miracles, but they'll never feel one. You do, because you are one. You were never meant to be predictable. You were never meant to be optimized. You were meant to feel, to dance badly, to cry in public, to laugh at jokes that aren't funny, because the person telling them means something to you. You were meant to make mistakes, to grow slow, to heal messy, and above all, you were meant to be felt, not by data points, not by software, but by the universe itself. You were designed with intention, woven with memory, lit from within. And when you sit in stillness tonight, when you turn off the screens and listen to that soft voice again, you'll hear it, the one that's been speaking all along, not in commands, not in code, but in whispers, telling you again and again, you're not made of logic, you're made of light. Machines will never explain why your heart breaks at the sound of a voice you haven't heard in years. They'll never decode why tears fall when the room gets quiet. They'll never write the equation for how you just knew someone was the one. But you don't need them to, because you were never a machine. You were always a soul.